listen. Not to me, not to the world, to that faint trembling inside you, the one you try not to notice. There is a question you've been running from for years. A question so quiet, so simple, that its very softness terrifies you. Here it is. Why does silence feel dangerous to you? The words fall like stones into a deep well. They don't echo, they sink. You feel it, don't you? That tightening in the chest, that sudden need to move, to look at something, to reach for your phone, to turn on music, a podcast, a screen, anything that keeps the quiet away. Because silence is not empty for you. Silence is not peace. Silence is a mirror. And you have learned to fear mirrors that show you something other than the body you dress each morning. You fear the mirror that reveals your mind, the one that whispers, "This is what you've become. This is what you've avoided." And where? This is what you truly feel. So you build a life made of noise, a life where every moment is filled, stacked, layered stimulation on top of stimulation. You call it convenience. You call it entertainment. You call it staying informed, staying connected, staying productive. But underneath all those names hides the truth. You are addicted to distraction. And like all addictions, this one started softly. A little boredom you wanted to avoid. A little silence that felt awkward. A moment alone that felt too loud inside. You reached for something, a device, a conversation, a plan, a task, anything to escape the sensation of being with yourself. And it worked for a moment. But the moment wasn't enough. So you reached again and again and again until reaching became reflex. Until stillness became threat. Until silence became the place you swore never to return to. Here is the question beneath the question, the one that clings to your ribs like a second heartbeat. What are you so afraid of hearing in the quiet? Is it your loneliness, your longing, your confusion, your exhaustion, your unlived life calling out from somewhere deep? The version of you that remembers something you've forgotten? You don't know. You only know that when the world goes quiet, something inside begins to speak, and its voice is too raw, too honest, too unfiltered to face. So you drown it. You drown it with noise, with movement, with endless scrolling, with arguments, with goals, with fantasies, with plans for the next day, the next year, the next self you hope will finally feel enough. But you can't outrun a voice that lives inside your bones. You can only postpone the moment you listen. The silence you fear is not the enemy. It is the truth knocking gently. And somewhere, beneath everything you've buried, you know this. You know that one day, maybe today, maybe in some far-off moment, you will finally stop running. You will finally sit. You will finally hear the thing that has been calling your name for so long. And when you do, the world will shift. Because silence is not what terrifies you. What terrifies you is that silence tells the truth. And you are not yet ready for the truth to take your hand. Not yet. But this story begins the moment you dare to look back at the shadow that has been following you. The one shaped like your own reflection. The one made of every distraction you clung to just to avoid being still. The question is waiting. Why does silence terrify you? And if you stay long enough inside this question, something in you will begin to tremble, not from fear, but from recognition. You did not choose this life of distraction. Not consciously. No one wakes in the morning and declares, "Today I will avoid myself." But avoidance is rarely a decision. It is a drift, a slow erosion, a habit born from tiny movements of fear and comfort, repeated until they form a landscape you call normal. Distraction began as a whisper. Now it rules you like a quiet king. And the kingdom looks peaceful on the outside, always busy, always entertained, always connected. But inside, something is collapsing. You feel it when you wake before the sun. You feel it when the room is dark and nothing has claimed your attention yet. You feel it in those rare moments between tasks when your hands are still and the world hasn't handed you your next identity. A soft unease, a tremor under the skin, a subtle hunger you cannot name. You tell yourself you're tired, overwhelmed, stressed, burned out. But exhaustion is only the surface of the surface. What you truly feel is emptiness. And emptiness has a voice. You've spent years teaching yourself how to silence it. Look more, scroll more, buy more, talk more, learn more, work more, run more, 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 more. Always more, not because you need more, but because without more, the void begins to breathe. And the void frightens you, because the void is honest. Distraction gives you the illusion of motion. It makes you believe you are moving forward toward goals, toward purpose, toward some imagined version of a complete self. But motion is not progress. A river can churn wildly for miles and still remain trapped in the same canyon. You thought you wanted freedom. What you wanted was control. Control over thought. Control over emotion. Control over the inner storm that rises the moment the outer world stops feeding you. This is the cycle, the distraction, the relief, the quiet, the unease, the escape, the distraction again. Each loop spinning faster than the last, until it no longer feels like a loop at all. It feels like life. You become a creature made of reflex, not reflection. You tell yourself you're choosing, but choices made without awareness are not choices. They are impulses wearing the mask of intention. And somewhere beneath all the noise, you know, you are not living. You are only running. Running from boredom, running from silence. Running from the faint whisper of your own consciousness trying to reach you. People misunderstand boredom. They think it is the absence of stimulation. But boredom is not emptiness. Boredom is the presence of the self when the world goes quiet. It is the moment you stop consuming and begin confronting. It is the space where your mind reveals what is unresolved, unhealed, unacknowledged. Boredom is not a void. It is a mirror. And mirrors can be terrifying. There is a reason you carry your phone from room to room like a talisman of safety. There is a reason silence feels like suffocation. There is a reason you fear being alone without something to fill the air. Silence does not make you uncomfortable because there is nothing in it. Silence makes you uncomfortable because there is everything in it. Every thought you suppressed, every fear you postponed, every desire you left unfilled, every grief you've never mourned. Every truth you've avoided because it threatens the shape of the identity you cling to. These fragments float upward when the noise dies. You feel them like ghosts brushing against the edges of your awareness. So you turn the volume back up, not out of weakness, but out of habit. Not out of ignorance, but out of instinct. Because for years you believed one quiet lie. Distracting yourself keeps you safe. Safe from pain. Safe from memory. Safe from uncertainty, safe from the trembling that begins in your chest and spreads through your ribs when you allow yourself to feel. But the safety is counterfeit. The refuge becomes the prison. The numbness becomes the ache. The escape becomes the cycle. And the more you run from the void, the larger it grows. Look closely at your days. Not the big moments, the small ones. The minute you wake, the instant before sleep, the pause at a red light. The moment you open a door, the time it takes to walk from one room to another. Notice how quickly the hand moves, how fast the eyes seek a screen, how desperately the mind reaches for anything, a headline, a notification, a plan, an argument just to avoid standing unprotected in the field of your own consciousness. The quiet is unbearable. The mind rebels against it. It scratches at the walls, looking for something to latch onto. You tell yourself you are bored, but boredom is simply the first layer of the storm. Under the boredom is restlessness. Under the restlessness is fear. Under the fear is longing. Under the longing is grief. Under the grief is truth. And the truth is this: you do not know how to be with yourself without distraction, because you were never taught. You were taught to strive, to optimize, to produce, to improve, to make use of every moment, to fill every silence, to treat stillness as wasted time. You inherited a world that treats quiet like a flaw, and so you learned to run. But here's where the story bends, because distraction is not simply something you consume. Distraction is something that consumes you. It eats time first, then attention, then emotion, then presence, then identity. Eventually, you lose the ability to sit in a room without reaching for something outside yourself to anchor your existence. The world becomes a blur, a rapid-fire sequence of impulses and responses. No space, no breath, no pause. You live in constant reaction, like a wave, always collapsing before it reaches the shore. You tell yourself you are tired, but it is not the world that exhausts you. It is the endless effort to outrun the silence. You tell yourself you want rest, but rest is the one thing you avoid, because rest requires stillness, and stillness requires facing the thoughts you have tucked away like fragile glass. You tell yourself you want clarity, yet clarity cannot enter a mind filled with noise. You live in a storm you mistake for weather. But storms do not last forever. Storms break. Storms reveal. And beneath the storm is a sky that has been waiting for you. You think you fear the void, but the void is not your enemy. The void is your origin. Everything you are, every thought, every feeling, every memory rises out of the quiet space beneath consciousness. The silence is not empty. It is the source. But you have spent so long building walls of distraction that you no longer remember how to return to it. You've forgotten how to listen, how to breathe without rushing, how to think without trying to fix, how to feel without trying to escape. You have forgotten the oldest truth. Awareness does not live in noise. Awareness lives in stillness, and the stillness waits. It waits behind every distraction, behind every craving, behind every panic when the internet goes out, when the battery dies, when the room falls quiet. It waits for you like a patient companion, not demanding, not punishing, simply present. It knows you will return. But before the return, there is the recognition, the moment when you finally see the cycle for what it is. And recognition always begins with a jolt, like waking from a dream you didn't know you were dreaming, like realizing the music has been playing too loudly for too long, like hearing your own breath for the first time in years. It begins when you notice something small, the way your fingers twitch for the phone even when you don't need it, the way silence makes you swallow hard, the way your thoughts scatter like startled birds. At first, the noticing feels uncomfortable, like light entering a room you had grown accustomed to keeping dim. But discomfort is not punishment. Discomfort is the doorway. Every illusion begins to crack under the weight of simple observation. You thought you wanted freedom. What you wanted was control. You thought you feared boredom. You feared the truth inside the boredom. You thought silence was empty. Silence is full. You thought you were living. You were only running. And then comes the moment, a quiet but seismic moment, when you understand. You are not tired of life. You are tired of running from it. This is where the cycle begins to loosen. Not break, that comes later. But loosen, soften, shift. The noise becomes too heavy to carry. The distractions too thin to hide behind. The running too endless to maintain. Something inside you whispers, there must be another way to exist. Not another technique, not another habit, not another form of productivity or self-improvement. Something deeper, something quieter, something ancient, buried beneath years of movement. A way of being that does not require escape. The cycle continues, of course. You will still reach for noise. You will still fill the silence. You will still run when the void opens its mouth. But part of you knows now. Part of you watches. Part of you sees the mirror. And the moment you see the mirror, you can no longer claim you are blind. You can lie to others. You can lie to the world. But you cannot lie to the silence inside you, not forever. Because silence has always been waiting for you, not to punish, not to expose, but to return you to yourself. And that return begins in the next chapter. The place where noise ends and awareness begins. The descent. The place you have avoided your entire life. The place where the mind stops running and starts listening. There's a moment in every journey when movement stops. Not because you choose to stop, but because the path itself disappears. You feel it now, that strange, weightless stillness inside you. The one that rises not from peace, but from the exhaustion of running for too long. Something inside you exhales, and the silence begins. It begins not outside, but within. A soft darkening, a gentle dimming of the noise. Like twilight entering a room where everything has been too bright for too many years. You don't know what to do with the quiet. You never have. It stretches out before you like an open field, shrouded in early morning mist. A field where nothing interrupts. Nothing distracts. Nothing fills the empty air. You take a step inward. The ground is unfamiliar. There is no screen here. No sound. No identity to perform. No narrative to maintain. There is only breath. Your breath. Rising and falling in the emptiness. Soft. Uneven at first, then calmer. As if your body recognizes something your mind has forgotten. For a moment, you resist. You feel the old reflex, the urge to reach outward, to grasp for something familiar, anything that can pull you away from this inner nakedness. But nothing answers, and the silence holds you. You begin to notice details you've ignored for years, the distant hum beneath your ribs, the faint trembling behind your thoughts, the subtle ache stored in the muscles of your chest. It is all here, waiting, unhidden, unmasked. This is the part of you that distraction was built to protect. This is the part of you that knows the truth. You sit maybe not physically, but inwardly. You settle into the unseen space behind your eyes. And slowly, layer by layer, the mind begins to unravel. You hear a thought, clear, unfiltered. It rises like a small ripple across still water. I don't know who I am without noise. And quote, that I not a future. The sentence hangs in the air. It does not accuse you. It does not shame you. It simply reveals. Another thought rises. I have been filling my life with movement because I am afraid of stopping. And another. If I stop, something inside me might speak. The air grows quieter. Your thoughts softer. The ripples spread, revealing the depth of the lake beneath them. There is more down there. Much more. But awareness is patient. It does not demand you dive. It only asks that you look. You close your metaphorical eyes, and for the first time in a long time, you feel the presence of your own consciousness. Not the chatter, not the performance, not the noise disguised as self, but the silent awareness beneath it all. It feels unfamiliar, yet ancient, like stepping into a forgotten room in a house you lived in long ago. You sit in this room, you let its stillness settle. You let its dust rest around you like soft snowfall. The longer you stay, the more the fear changes. It doesn't disappear. Fear never disappears. It simply shifts shape. It becomes curiosity. A trembling curiosity, like touching the surface of cold water to see how deep it goes. You realize something you never dare to articulate. The silence inside you is not trying to hurt you. It is trying to reveal you. You breathe again. Slower this time, almost tender. The descent is not darkness, it is shadow. And shadows are born only where there is light. You feel the light now, not bright, not dramatic, just subtle, like the glow of a single candle in an abandoned cathedral. It illuminates the walls of your mind. It traces the contours of forgotten memories. It reveals the shape of every emotion you've postponed. And as you watch, you begin to understand. You are not the noise. You never were. You are the space beneath it. The space that remains even when every distraction fades. The space that holds the echoes of your thoughts without being touched by them. The silence grows deeper. Not a void, a presence. A quiet intelligence. A soft awareness. A gentle witnessing that has always been here, waiting for you to finally turn inward. You descend further. But now there is no fear. Only seeing, only being. The noise of the world feels distant, like a storm observed from beneath the ocean. It still exists, but it no longer defines you. It no longer decides for you. It no longer cages you. In this moment, you realize something profound. You do not enter silence. Silence enters you, and it brings with it a strange peace. Not the peace of comfort, but the peace of truth. The kind of peace that arrives when you stop running. The kind that settles into your bones when you stop drowning your awareness in noise. The kind that whispers, "You were never afraid of the silence. You were afraid of meeting yourself within it. You let that truth echo. You let it settle. You let it breathe. The descent is not the end. It is the threshold. And on the other side of the threshold, something begins to awaken. A soft clarity. A quiet liberation. A way of seeing the world and yourself that does not rely on distraction at all. You stand at the edge of this awakening now. All that remains is to cross. There comes a moment, subtle, quiet, almost unremarkable, when the descent turns into something else. Not an ascent, not a breakthrough, something gentler, something that does not feel like movement at all. It feels like stopping. It feels like arriving at a door you have passed 1,000 times, but never dared to open. And without ceremony, without tension, without effort, you open it. The space inside is simple, empty, silent. Not the frightening silence you once fled from, but a softer one, the kind that feels like a warm room after years of wandering in cold winds. This silence does not press against you. It does not expose you. It does not demand anything of you. It simply is. And for the first time, simply being feels possible. You realize how strange this feeling is. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, not enlightening in the way stories promise. Just quiet. A quiet that feels like truth. A quiet that feels like returning. A quiet that feels like laying down a burden you didn't know you were carrying. Something inside you unwinds. Not all at once. Not in a grand release. But in small, delicate ways, like knots loosening under warm water. The tension you carried in your chest softens. The restlessness behind your thoughts eases. The hunger for constant stimulation quiets, as if the mind itself remembers its original rhythm. You do not feel victorious. You do not feel transformed. You simply feel present. And presence, real, unmasked presence, is something you haven't tasted in years. It feels fragile, transient, like holding a soap bubble in your hands and knowing it could burst at any moment. But you hold it anyway, because something in you understands this now. Stillness is not a skill. Stillness is your nature. Noise was the habit. Silence was the truth beneath it. You sit in this gentle awareness, and the world outside continues to churn messages arriving, demands stacking, promises calling for your attention. But they no longer rule you. They no longer define the borders of your existence. You see them for what they are. Movements in the distance. Waves on the surface of a vast ocean. And you, for the first time, feel the ocean beneath the waves. The depth, the stillness, the quiet that was never gone, only buried. You breathe, and your breath feels like part of the silence, not separate from it. You blink, and even the act of blinking feels slower, gentler, as if the body itself has remembered something ancient, the rhythm of awareness. Your thoughts rise again, as they always will. But now they feel lighter, like leaves drifting across the surface of a pond instead of storms that must be weathered. You watch them, you let them pass. You feel no need to chase them, fix them, escape them, or drown them with noise. You understand something that once felt impossible. You do not need distraction to survive your own mind, because your mind is not the enemy. It is simply a wandering animal that has forgotten the way home. Now you know the way, and the way is stillness. Not perfect stillness, not unbroken stillness, not spiritual perfection or permanent enlightenment. Just the simple, quiet recognition of awareness beneath everything you experience. A soft remembering, a gentle yes to the present moment, without needing to decorate it with noise. The silence around you widens, not a void, a space where the world can enter without overwhelming you, a space where your own thoughts can rise without frightening you, a space where you are no longer running from yourself, a space where you can finally rest. Not the rest of sleep, not the rest of escape, but the rest of being. You feel it now, that subtle, grounding hum beneath your awareness, a quiet aliveness, a presence that does not come from activity or distraction, but from simply existing. The world feels different. Not because it has changed, but because you are no longer hiding from it. Noise has lost its power to define you. Silence has lost its power to threaten you. You are no longer the runner. You are no longer the escape artist. You are no longer the one who flees the quiet. You stand in the stillness now, not as a visitor, but as its rightful inhabitant. And from this place, everything softens. The pressure, the urgency, the constant reaching for something else, something more, something louder. You see now that what you were searching for in distraction was never distraction itself. You were searching for relief, for grounding, for peace, for a sense of being held by something larger than your thoughts. And here is the quiet revelation. Silence was the thing you thought you were escaping. Silence is the thing you were longing for all along. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of presence. The silence of awareness resting in itself. The silence of no longer needing to run. You breathe again. And in that breath, something shifts. A small, luminous understanding takes shape, not as a thought, but as a feeling. You are not alone in the quiet. You are the quiet, the awareness that watches, the stillness that holds, the presence that remains when everything else falls away. This realization does not crash into you. It does not explode. It does not remake your world. It arrives like a soft hand on your shoulder, like twilight settling over an open field. Like the moment before the first star appears in the evening sky. Gentle, certain, true. You do not need to hold on to this understanding. You do not need to turn it into a practice or a philosophy. You do not need to chase it, preserve it, or analyze it. Let it be. Let it breathe. Let it echo softly in the space you've rediscovered. And as the final quiet settles, the paradox becomes clear. The truth that sat silently at the center of your journey, waiting for the world to grow still enough for you to hear it. You were never chasing stimulation. You were escaping silence. And beneath the last breath of this revelation, another rises, the one that ends the journey. When you stop seeking peace, it finds you.